Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's KriswithaK back at it again today, and I'm gonna just go ahead and start this off. I'm not mad. I'm not upset. I'm not even surprised. As a Giants fan, this is what I expected coming into the season, and you always want to be a little bit optimistic going into a new season because you just never know what could happen. But realistically, this is what I expected, and that's okay. But what I want to try to do is change the narrative just a little bit, because there's a lot of people who like to talk about the Giants, but they don't watch the Giants games. And from a Giants fan, it's kind of frustrating to see all this over media or getting texted to my phone. So I'm just going to do my part and what I can to change the narrative. So week 1 of the NFL, the New York Giants faced off against the Minnesota Vikings. This team has a really good history the past couple of years. If you remember, a couple of years ago, we beat them in the wild card round to go on to the divisional, where we ended up losing to the Eagles. So when we matched up this time, everybody expected a good competitive game. Unfortunately, that isn't what happened. I have a few notes written down from the game that I just want to run through, because if you go online, you talk to anybody and you bring up the Giants, it's all going to be, oh, it's Daniel Jones' fault. Everything's thrown on Daniel Jones. Now, do I think Daniel Jones is an elite quarterback, a top quarterback in the league? Absolutely not. If you do, you're delusional. But from watching the Giants these past 4, 5, 6 years that he's been here, I can confidently say that there are more problems that this team has other than Daniel Jones. Starting off with the most glaring and I'd say surprising aspect of the game is how little defensive pressure we put on Sam Darnold. Now, everybody knows that, Kirk is over in Atlanta. Sam Darnold wasn't even supposed to get the start. It was supposed to be the rookie JJ. He tore his Achilles or ACL or something before the season started. So Darnold has the nod. Now, Darnold isn't a bad quarterback by any means, but he hasn't been great. He wasn't great with the Jets. I didn't think he was going to be great here, even though he has a considerably better receiving core over there at Minnesota. But the lack of defensive pressure that was put on Sam Darnold was astonishing. I think they did okay for the first 2 drives that Minnesota was on offense, and then after that, Sam Darnold literally had his way. I mean, you let this guy go 12 of 12 starting off the game. You can't expect a competitive game at that point. I think what was even more shocking is he wasn't doing it with Justin Jefferson. I think Jefferson had like 4 or 5 catches on the day for less than 100 yards. We did a decent job of containing Jefferson as far as, what his standards are per game. Everybody cooked us. Every single receiver, every tight end, they cooked our defense. And part of that is due to Sam Darnold having all day in the pocket. He hardly even had to use his legs. Like, he didn't leave the pocket all that many times. We had, going into the season, you can argue the best defensive line pieces in the entire league. You got Dexter Lawrence, you got Thibodeau, you brought in Burns in the offseason. There's no reason for us to not put any pressure on that Minnesota Vikings line. They really got their way on in both the run and the pass game. We're usually a decent run stopping team. Aaron Jones did whatever he wanted out there on that field. There was no answer to Minnesota's offense, and it wasn't that Minnesota has this amazing, electric, high-powered offense. They didn't show up. So we can go on the other side of the ball, and yes, we can talk about Daniel Jones and his inconsistencies and his accuracy on some throws. But if you want to be completely honest, there are 2 things that I look at more than Daniel Jones being inconsistent and Daniel Jones being inaccurate on some passes. I look at 1, him not having any time to throw the ball. Any time. I wish I knew the pressure rate for that game on Daniel Jones, because it seemed like there was 4 plays the entire game where he had time to get in the pocket and go through his progressions. That didn't happen the entire game. So DJ has no time to throw the ball. Minnesota doesn't have this great, amazing secondary. I'll give it to them. You got Harrison Smith, you got Von Ginkel. Daniel Jones ended up throwing 2 picks to both those respective players, one being a pick 6. Okay, I get it. The second thing we have to look at is the receivers weren't getting open. We want to put focus on the quarterback, and rightfully so. But Giants have not had a high-powered, high offensive receiving core in a long time. I think they showed the stat that we haven't had a receiver get over 800 yards in 6 or 7 years. What? Nobody. You could put Brady back there. You could put Mahomes back there. They have to throw to somebody. Nobody got open. Daniel Jones has to deal with the combined no time in the pocket, no time to throw the ball, always getting pressured, always getting rushed, and no receivers being open. What do you want the guy to do? You know, he's not mobile at all, and that's something let's actually pivot there right now. This is the first season where Daboll is calling the offensive plays for us. Last year, it was offensive coordinator Mike Kafka, I believe. But Daboll is taking that position this season and calling the offensive plays. And I'll tell you what, I had a problem with the offensive play calling throughout most of that game. And in particular, just the simple pass concepts that they were allowing DJ to do. The stick concepts, these wide receiver screens, these 3 to 5 yard routes. And I don't know if that's due to them knowing that this offensive line may not be the best and him not having a lot of time, so you aren't able to throw in those big plays where you get to go 10, 15, 20 yards down the field, or if they don't have enough confidence in Daniel Jones to be able to make those throws. Whichever the case may be, I was unhappy with the offensive play calls this entire game. And I'll go back to the wide receiver screens, because this is a play that I really don't like at the collegiate or the professional level, because 2 things need to happen for wide receiver screens to even be a viable offensive option. First of all, you need to have a big play receiver, which I don't believe the Giants have. I don't believe we have that right now. You need to have a guy who's going to be able to first of all, receive it, catch the ball, and then, break plays, read blocks, and hit their top end speed relatively quickly, because everything is shifted towards one side of the field. So you have to be a big play receiver. And the second thing is, you need guys who are going to get out in front and block. And just like I said earlier, we didn't see much blocking at all from anybody. So that's not even a viable option for us. They had the 4th and 1. It might have been the 3rd and 1 where they tried to do a design quarterback run with DJ out of the backfield. Who on earth drew that play up? If you're gonna do something like that, if you want DJ to run the ball, do the tush push, do a quarterback sneak. That is the only acceptable option it should be for Daniel Jones to be running that ball, a designed run for him. Never, ever, ever do I want to see him run it out of the backfield ever again. But obviously, Daniel Jones is not absolved from criticism. Like I mentioned, he had the 2 picks, one in the red zone. The red zone picks just can't happen. We were out of the game by that point. A field goal wasn't going to help us in a game where a field goal might make a difference. Red zone picks, they can't happen. Pick 6 was once again to a wide receiver screen, which we shouldn't have even been running anyway. And he read it, but sure, he has to get more accurate, be better in the pocket. He has to be more aware. Sure, all these things, but you have to look at the situation around him. Here's my thing. We already know who Daniel Jones is. He's been in the league for long enough. We know what type of quarterback he is. And you have him for at least this year. So instead of booing him every drive, instead of demeaning this kid and talking bad about him on all the social media pages, and like everywhere he turns, he probably hears that he isn't a good quarterback. Instead of doing that, we already know who he is. I don't think he's bad. He's not great. Sure. But look at the things around him. Look at what is making him not be able to take that next step. That's neither here nor there. Our run game is non-existent. if Daniel Jones is having to throw the ball 40 times a game, you know you're not doing something right, you know? But at the same time, I was even in a sense kind of proud that they allowed him to go out there and try to throw 42 times, because it's showing that they're okay with what they've been seeing from him in the training camps, in the preseason, and even throughout his previous season. But regardless, this is going to be a tank year for us, and it sucks to be at the end of a tanking year. It does, but there are more focal points that need to be addressed from the New York Giants outside of just Daniel Jones. That's enough for me. Unfortunate, it'll be a long season for us Giants fans, but we're going to stick behind our boys, and hopefully they can get something shaken. If not, we'll have a really bad season, miss the playoffs, and hopefully get a high draft pick. So it's always a silver lining. Kris with a K, I'm out.